And welcome to the April 1st meeting of the Board of Commissioners. We're happy to have you join us this morning. Our invocation and pledge will be led by Commissioner Michael Booth.
Good morning. First of all, happy belated Vietnam War Veterans Day, which was March 29th. We're next door to the largest Army base in the world. We are very appreciative of them, especially appreciative of all the efforts they've done. And so belated happy Vietnam War veterans to them. First of all, I'd just like to ask everybody to make a commitment. Contact a loved one that you have not had contact with, visited with, called, emailed, FaceTime, Hulu'd, or whatever else is going on out there. Tell them you love them. Tell them you love them unconditionally. I'd like to take a moment of silence to honor the memory of the loved ones not with us now and to be thankful for the time that they were. Thank you, Lord, for the precious gifts of life and family. Amen. Help us to make the right decisions for all of our citizens today, and as always, we hope to every day. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
He's serious this morning.
I know, I can't wait.
It was great.
My dad died Friday, so I have to be in Dave.
Oh, that's right. You call me and tell me. Okay.
I thought it was his place, so I didn't.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Madam Manager, there's several things going on, but I think I'm supposed to recognize you for recognitions.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good morning, board members.
Good morning.
I'm pleased this morning to have the opportunity to share with you the results of our 2018 United Way campaign. This year, Cumberland County employees contributed $31,984 to the United Way campaign. This was actually an increase of $2,193 over the prior year campaign, and actually it was the highest amount that we've raised since 2014. I would like to say this. Our employees are public servants by profession, but many of the county departments serve this community in many ways, and contributing to the United Way campaign is a part of that community service. And so I'd like to acknowledge and thank all Cumberland County employees that have participated and given and sacrificed to the United Way campaign. In addition to that, we have 8 county departments that have earned campaign awards, and there are actually 2 campaign awards, the Campaign Excellence Awards and the Campaign Achievement Awards. And we'll begin with 3 departments who earned Campaign Excellent Awards. These departments had at least 85% participation and either 104 per capita gift or a 20% increase. The Campaign Achievement Awards have at least 50% employee participation and a $52 per capita gift or a 10% increase in giving. So first of all, we'll begin with the 3 departments that earned Campaign Excellent Awards. I'd like to ask representatives from our Central Maintenance Department, Community Development, and Tax Administration to come forward, please. Congratulations, Ron. Thank you very much. Yes, and go around just one more. Tax Administration. Thank you very much, and congratulations. And then Community Development. Congratulations. Ron, stay.
Ray, you're one of the bride. That's right.
Glenn turns and starts walking towards me. I thought that was always a picture.
Can Manager Janita come on up in here?
Yeah.
Come on, Miss Manager.
And,
This yours.
yeah, this is your crowd. This is your crew.
15 minutes of playing.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Keep standing. He said the camera doesn't appear to be pointing at you.
Oh, God. We need to present him.
They're unabashed about it. There's a photo on it. You want to be up.
We actually have 5 departments that achieved the Campaign Achievement Awards. Cumberland County Cooperative Extension, our Finance Department, Human Resources, Register of Deeds, and County Administration. And I'm going to ask Geneve Mangle to come up and represent County Administration. She served in a very difficult role, and she served as the countywide United Way Coordinator. Departments, please come forward. Register of Deeds and Human Resources.
Could the commissioners stand, please?
Yeah,
We'll just do it all at once.
Yeah, do it all at once. Let them shake the commissioner's hands and then get a picture.
Who's on first?
That's a big job.
Still a big job. Yeah, absolutely. Good job.
Countywide, always good to see you.
Good job.
Congrats again. Congrats again.
I'm looking up. There we go.
See how big y'all have fun in the morning.
Without coffee.
Thank you.
Here's where we'll do it. Not yet.
That's next.
We're going on.
We're ready with the changes, the additions of the agenda, please.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. We would ask that you add under closed session an attorney-client under 143, 318, 11A3. 143, 318, 11A3.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the agenda with the addition.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there questions? Let's vote. Those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. The next item are presentations. Under 2A, we have representatives from Manna Church here this morning that would like to make a presentation to the Board of Commissioners.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners. My name is Chris Fletcher. I'm the lead pastor here of Manna Church in Fayetteville, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I have Riley Halliday, our soon-to-be Cliffdale site pastor. I have James Lewis, our Ramsey Street site pastor, and Jonathan Fletcher, who's our teaching pastor. And we brought this shirt here today because during the Hurricane Florence, our team mobilized and tried to serve in our community. And we found such openness and receptiveness and such cooperation. And we're so proud to be a part of the County of Cumberland and to have been able to serve our community alongside of you. That this red shirt is a shirt that our serve team, our volunteer team, we call them, wore throughout the hurricane. It's signed by a number of our key leaders that were in the shelter that participated in all those efforts. And so we wanted to present that to you to say thank you for letting us have a seat at the table. Thank you for what an amazing job you did during Hurricane Florence relief, and we're very grateful to have been a part and served alongside of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I make I was in the EOC with Commissioner Adams, and I just want to tell you about this organization. They didn't ask for anything. They just stepped up. They came down. They brought food. They served where they felt like they were needed, not only at the EOC, but at the centers. Your initiative and compassion was amazing to the citizens of Cumberland County. And personally, I want to thank you. I thought you guys were just phenomenal. Thank you. So, you want to, if you can we get a...
We need a photo op, please.
Great. That sounds good.
And
Ready? We thought you were yours.
Just have John follow me around.
Okay, I'm trying to get everybody's face in there. Sir, could you move?
Yes, I know that.
oh,
There you go, John
There
is
we go, that's
mine.
better. Okay, great.
You guys start around. Start right there. Thank you. I appreciate the inspiration and everything. Yes, sir.
We need to hang that in the new 9/11.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That is an awesome idea.
we have another presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Item 2B is a presentation on the 2020 census preparation and promotion. Ms. Sally Shutt.
Good morning, everyone. 1 year from today, April 1st, 2020, is Census Day in the United States, and today, April 1st, 2019, has been declared a National Day of Action to promote the upcoming census. So to mark this day of action, Mr. Kenneth Wilkins from the U.S. Census Bureau and Aaron Barnes from our own Cumberland County Comprehensive Planning Section are going to provide a brief overview on the census, including local preparations. Later today, representatives from key stakeholder organizations in our community are going to meet for the formation meeting of our Cumberland County Complete Count Committee, and this will include representatives from nonprofits, community groups, our municipalities, the school system, higher education, the military, and other organizations. Aaron Barnes and Trey Smith, who is also, and Trey and Aaron are here, are serving as our county census coordinators, and we know that our award-winning library system is going to play a critical part in outreach to our community for the census, and our library director, Jody Rishisher, is going to serve as chair of that Complete Count Committee. They will be providing updates to the Board of Commissioners throughout this process. And I want to thank Mr. Wilkins for being here today. He will also be speaking to the Complete Count Committee as they begin forming. So, Mr. Wilkins.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ladies and gentlemen of the commission. I want to tell you that I'm pleased to be here for a number of reasons. I'm Kenneth Wilkins. I'm a partnership specialist with the U.S. Census Bureau of the Atlanta region. That region is made up of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida. I'm based in Raleigh. I'm really pleased to be here. You know, people always say that, but I say that from the heart because from the moment I called County Manager, Ms. Cannon, she was so enthusiastic and welcoming that it was just a pleasure to have a conversation with her. I then spoke with Assistant County Manager Sally Shutt, same response. Then I spoke to a number of staff people, same response. So your folks have been on the ball, they're ready to go. I've even spoken to one of your staff members who's going to chair the commission 6, 7 o'clock Friday night. So they're working after hours to make sure this is a good event and a good campaign. So again, I'm pleased to be here. Every 10 years, the U.S. Census Bureau has conducted a constitutionally mandated census to determine the number of people living in the United States and our territories. I would like for you to remember two things about the census. If you don't remember anything else I say, and I know you remember much of what I say, and you've got packets up there, but the census is about two things, power and money. Let me say that one more time. The census is about two things, power and money. And I'll talk about both of those just a little bit. I know I have a short period of time, but I'll cover both of those issues in that short period of time. As you know, the information from the census is used to determine the number of congressional seats in the United States. And as you also know, there are only 435 seats. They aren't making any more. And the House of Representatives from North Carolina, we have 13 members. Given the increase in the population in North Carolina, there's a good chance that we will add a seat. But what we have to do is have a really good campaign in this state and in each and every county. Those numbers, as you know, are used to draw the lines for the Congress, your state, county, and local districts as well. In 2000, the response rate from Cumberland County to the census was 69%. In 2010, it was 73%. So progress, let's continue to keep building on that progress because it's very important. In 2010, the state of South Carolina and Georgia added 1 congressional seat, and Florida gained 2. That was all based on the responses to the census. In 2010 also, the state of South Carolina placed $1 million in their budget in their efforts to get folks to respond to the census. So some states are doing different things to get the response rate up. That's what South Carolina did, and they netted an additional congressional seat. We didn't gain any in 2010. In 2010, an estimated 5% of children were not counted in the United States. That's nearly 1 million children. They're among the hard-to-count populations like renters, non-English speakers, people who live in rural areas, those experiencing homelessness, and those who live in low-income communities. The upcoming census will more accurately reflect the makeup of North Carolina's military communities. I know that's an important issue in this county. Members of the military who are deployed will be counted at their latest base address. So if they're deployed, wherever they're based, that's where they will be counted. The goal of the census is to count everyone only once and in the right place. That's one of our mottos. We've got a new one coming out, but that's the one that we use at this point. Now for the money part. I talked about the power. Let's talk about the money part. $675 billion will be returned to the states each year for the next 10 years. That's approximately $1,623 per person in North Carolina. That money will help offset the cost of a number of programs that assist members in the community. That number again, $1,623 is the estimate. That's not once, that's every year for the next 10 years. Responding to the census helps communities receive the funding they need and helps businesses make data-driven decisions that help grow the economy. It helps them decide where to place a business, where to find customers, and a number of other issues that help to grow their business and the economy in this community. The information gathered from the census is kept confidential for 72 years. It cannot be shared with any other agency or entity. It can only be used to produce statistics. By law, the responses to the census cannot be used against you by any governmental agency or in court in any way. If it is, there are severe consequences for those breaches. In mid-March of 2020, each household will receive a postcard in the mail. It will have a barcode on it. The postcard will be mailed to the address and not to individuals at that address. There will be new ways to respond to the 2020 census. For the first time, you'll be able to respond online, by computer, tablet, your cell phone. If that doesn't work, you can also respond by phone. And if that doesn't work, you can also respond by mail. If we don't hear from you, someone will make 3 attempts to knock on that door. They'll make 1 visit, no response. They'll come back for the second one, no response. They'll come back for the 3rd time. If after the 3rd time there's still no response, they will go to a neighbor's house and try to determine the number of people living in that residence. If there's no response there, they will close out that address and it will not be counted. What we are asking every community to do is to form a complete count committee or committees in their area. You heard Sally Shutt talk about the meeting this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Real excited that they put that together. The role is to develop and implement an outreach plan tailored to the unique characteristics of your community. You heard some of the makeup of some of the members of that committee. We look for folks to be the trusted voices in your community. I like to call them the Pied Pipers. You know the folks who can walk in a room and people gravitate to them, people listen to them. So their role is to always encourage, is to also encourage participation in the census as well. That effort will start at 2 o'clock this afternoon in the Social Services building. Let me close by saying the Census Bureau is hiring. We're going to hire almost 6,000 people in North Carolina. The committee will have that information. You have some in your packet as well that I left with you. But the committee will have that information at 2 o'clock. And so I want to thank you for letting me speak to you today. I want to thank the county manager and her staff for how welcoming and enthusiastic they have been in this effort. And I look forward to working with Cumberland County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're open for questions. Mr. Fairclough?
First off, thank you for coming to Cumberland County and all
Yes,
that you do for us.
Yes, sir.
You partially answered my question. I won't be, but just a minute. It's very important to us that being the county of the most important military force in the world, Fort Bragg, we're very sensitive to the fact that we didn't count everybody 10 years ago. And can you just elaborate a little more on exactly how we're going to make sure we have an accurate count of our military here in Cumberland County?
Well, they will be counted at the base, their last base address. I can tell you that about the military.
Is that something Fort Bragg themselves are going to do?
There are certain committees that will work with the those hard to count populations, which will also include those who are incarcerated and those who are homeless. Part of what we're looking for on this committee are the folks who, again, the trusted voices, who have the information and the trust of those communities, who can count in those communities as well.
So it sounds like you're going to have Fort Bragg do the county.
That should be a part of the committee. Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Thank you.
that's a clarifying question. Follow up to Commissioner Fairclough. So if they live on the installation, will they still be counted in our area?
Yes, if they live there, they will be counted.
On the installation, on the federal property?
Yes, sir. But the
Okay.
ones who are deployed will be counted at their last address
All right,
as
thank
well.
you.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have a question before I?
No, ma'am. We do have Mr. Aaron Barnes from our planning department that will do a very short presentation with specifics on our local preparation after the board finalizes all the questions.
All right. Mr. Wilson, we are so happy to have you share this information at our meeting. It is urgent that we count everybody. 69% to me is low. That means we're missing 31%.
That's correct.
We've got to improve it.
The governor would like to see 80% in this state, And I think that's an achievable goal with the right committee and the right effort. And I think you all are well on your way to meet that goal or surpass that goal.
Thank you.
Thank you,
for
Mayor.
joining us. Okay. Mr.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Mr. Wilkins covered a lot of what I had on here, so I'm going to just skip our timeline for the Complete Count Committee. For this entire year, we're pretty much going to be organizing for our Complete Count Committee, and as he was mentioning, Fort Bragg, we'll definitely have somebody from Fort Bragg on that committee, so that's not to worry. Also, toward the end of this year, we're really going to be looking at getting the census logo and the message initially out, so just wait until the end of this year for more of the media-related items to come out. And also, January to March 2020 is really, January we're going to have to hit the ground running with all our resources and everything we have for the census, because I believe it will be sent out in March and April. So if we're going to do a promotional event, we need elected officials like you all to also just really get the word out. But that time period is probably our most crucial time period. And also, April 2020 to December 2020 is when we'll be trying to get the people who haven't responded to respond, and that's when the actual census surveyors will actually go home to home and get the people who have not responded yet. So that is also a very important time for the committee, and we'll still be doing a lot of promotional events and materials and organizing during that time period. And that's all I have. I'll answer any questions, y'all.
Mr. Keefe?
No, ma'am. Not yet.
April
right.
Fools.
What do we do now?
All right. Thank you. I'm sure that we will have questions, and we will look forward to receiving more information from you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'd also like to recognize Trey. Stand up, please. He's working as a co-chair with Aaron Barnes, and I'd also like to publicly thank Jody Rishisher for agreeing to be the chair of this of our local committee.
Thank you to everyone. We appreciate it.
Madam Chair, item 2C is a presentation by the Outreach Coordinator, Ms. Raina, on the Stephen A. Cohen Military Family Clinic at Cape Fear Valley Medical Center.
Good morning, board members.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to present here today about a very small nonprofit organization in Cumberland County in Fayetteville. Our local partner is not so small. It's the Cape Fear Valley Health System, but the Stephen A. Cohen Military Family Clinic is a small clinic that is part of an organization called Cohen Veteran Network, and it is a nationwide network that currently operates 12 clinics across the country. And what we do is we close a gap in behavioral health services for post 9/11 veterans and for military families. So we see people for depression, anxiety, PTSD, mild TBI, mild depression, mild addiction, family issues. We see a lot of children who are struggling in school due to often separation for long deployments, and oftentimes because the father or the mother who's a service member is struggling with PTSD and other issues. All of our services are completely free. They are all funded by the Cohen Veteran Network. And the funding actually comes from Stephen A. Cohen, who is a philanthropist, a private person. He's involved in hedge funds, and he gave $275 million to the Cohen Veteran Network in 2016 to start a network of clinics across the country to close that gap in behavioral health services. I provided all of you with a blue folder, and that contains the briefing slides and a flyer on the clinic. So what makes our clinic different is, first of all, there's no charge, so there's no copays. People don't have to worry about going through TRICARE. Also, we see people who are uninsured or unable to meet their deductibles. Currently we don't bill insurance, so we don't even collect any social security numbers or any military documentation. When people come in, we trust them that they give us the correct information on their affiliation and their issues. So currently we're able to see post 9/11 veterans and anybody who's related to post 9/11 veterans. So this is not only the immediate family members, but also extended family members. Oftentimes, these people are not covered by the post 9/11 veterans insurance if the veteran even has insurance. So we've seen ex-spouses, which is huge, because oftentimes those women, they are left without benefits once they divorce. We also see adult children, nephews, nieces, second cousins. As long as the client says, I am related to a post 9/11 veteran somehow, we see that person for behavioral health services. Again, we don't even ask for proof of relations. We also see family members of active duty service members. So again, we see the extended family, not only those with DoD ID cards, but we see parents, adult children, ex-spouses. Again, we do see a lot of ex-spouses from our military community. And currently, we are not able to see active duty service members for individual therapy because of mission readiness. That's the deal we have with Fort Bragg. But we're able to see them for marriage counseling, which is huge, since we know there are issues in the military with high divorce rates. And we're also able to see them for family therapy, which is also very important because there are adjustment issues due to deployments, and it is a tough way to be married when your spouse could be gone 8 months at a time. We're also able to see, for free, National Guards and reservists, as long as they're not on orders. Once they're activated, we can still see them for family therapy and couples therapy, but not for individual therapy. Again, that's due to mission readiness concerns. Our main mission is to take care of post 9/11 veterans and military families, but we still want to make sure that we provide services to pre-9/11 veterans, since this community has a large number of pre-9/11 vets. So what we do is we provide them with case management services. So they come to the clinic, we set an appointment for them to sit down with a case manager, and then we connect them with all the other resources in town. So we work closely with the VA, the Vet Center, the Veteran Service Office, some of the nonprofits, Wounded Warrior Project, to make sure that these veterans are connected not only with behavioral health services, but all other services as well. And case management services are provided to all of our clients. So people come in for therapy, but we also provide them with other services, or case management to connect them with other services in the community. So we make sure that we stay on top of all the different nonprofits that are in town, their latest programs, the demographics they see, because our case managers want to make sure that they refer people out to the right resources. And we also practice warm handoffs, which means we call the organization ahead of time and tell them that there's a veteran or a family member coming down to receive their services. The Cohen Clinic in Fayetteville opened a year and a half ago, almost 2 years, July of 2017. And so far we've seen just over 1,000 people. And this includes post 9/11 veterans, families of active duty service members, a large percentage of National Guards and reservists, and we've seen a lot of children. We provide play therapy, we make sure the children are taken care of, and we work very closely with Fort Bragg and their behavioral health clinic, and they refer a lot of the children to us because we're able to get them in fairly quickly. We strive to have about a 2-week wait time. So that's also a reason why the VA sometimes sends some of the veterans to us for individual therapy to try to get them in as quick as possible. Do you have, anybody has any questions?
I see no lights, but thank you very much for the presentation, and hopefully this will help get the word out. All of us serve on the Cape Fear Valley Board of Trustees, so we were aware, but the general public, I don't think,
yes. Thank you
is
so
always
much.
aware.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity again.
Thank you for joining us.
Item number 3 is the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I think Commissioner Evans had something he wanted to do right quick.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
if you would allow me just 1 second here. I know we have Jody Richardson here, Director of our library. We also have one of our trustee members, Ms. Belinda Wilkerson, who's here with us today. So we'd like to welcome you here. Thank you for coming.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Are there items to be pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I could pull items C, D, and E.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to accept the other items.
So moved. Second.
All right, those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay. Item C?
Well, we could do C, D, and E together, Madam. I just don't understand why we are circumventing our regular procedure. None of this has been declared surplus property by the county commissioners, which is required by the statute. I see we tried to do that within this consent, but I think that sets a bad precedent that it has not been declared surplus property for everybody in the county to look at. I don't really care about who, the three of them who gets them, but I think there's a process that we use, and we're circumventing that process, and I don't understand why, and I just want to know why.
Actually, it's only that very first one with
all of them say the same thing. Each one of them say that it has not been declared surplus property by the county, and they want to do it within the consent agreement. If you, that's the way I read it.
Always on the order that or the resolution adopted, I've always just included language that you don't find it necessary for governmental purposes. Of these three that the offers have been made on, the first one is one that off of Ashley Street, that lot 18 from the E.T. Spencer re-subdivision. That was acquired in 2004, and it was just never on the surplus list that we can determine. We don't know why, and that's actually this. Group came to us and identified that. We didn't have the next one. The other one actually that has been. If it says in there, it is just an error. I'm not seeing it real quick. And then the separate item.
And maybe the other two have been, but it seems to me that if we have to. There should be some information presented to the body to determine that it's surplus property. Shouldn't just be done in the consent agreement.
We did follow the process that is normally, that we always do before we bring them to the board. We usually bring a group at one time after a few months of the foreclosures. Right. This is just, and the only reason this one was done that way is because the offer was made on it. But we did circulate the identity of this parcel to all the city and county departments in the way that we do everything before it goes on the surplus list, before we ask the board to declare it surplus and put it on surplus list, to see if there's any reason for that a governmental department might have a use for it. And sometimes that's because the stuff is near the landfill or other reasons it's not necessary use, but just to not put it back in the market. So, but that was done for that lot by itself.
All right. Is this? Me recognize Mr. Faircloth, and then I'll ask my question. Mr. Faircloth.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The question I have is, if we approve this on the consent agenda, or however we approve it, does it then go to a 10-day upset bid or something like that?
Yes, sir.
How is that made available to the public?
By advertisement, and it's on our website too, I think. It is for sale, but it has to be advertised in the Fayetteville Observer.
And my question was, is it time sensitive? Or can we wait until the next meeting?
No, ma'am, it's not time sensitive.
If it's not, that's my suggestion. If Mr. Adams has a motion.
Yeah, and I just think that we just need to present the information showing it's surplus property. So I would ask that it be moved to that, off the consent agenda. We have that information presented. And then we vote on the surplus, and then we can move to the next step. I think when we start shortcutting the process, down the road, we're going to be in trouble somewhere. There are people who go out there and look at these surplus lists, and they want to understand why they didn't see it out there to be able to do that. I think that's just the proper way to do it. So, Madam Chair, I would move these three be moved to the next meeting.
I'll second the motion.
All right, you've heard the motion and the second that these three items be moved to the next meeting. Those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 4 begins our items of business. Item 4A is consideration and approval of a resolution to authorize the transfer of the Cumberland County Celebrates the Babe exhibit from the Crown Coliseum to Seagrass Stadium, home of the Fayetteville Woodpeckers. As you all know, George Herman Ruth hit his very first professional home run on March 7th, 1914, here in Cumberland County, and that's how he acquired his famous nickname, Babe Ruth. As a part of our 250th celebration of Cumberland County, a commemorative display panel was constructed as a part of that ceremony, and the exhibit has been on permanent display at the Crown Coliseum since that time. Our office was approached by city officials about transferring that commemorative display to the stadium so that it could be more widely displayed. And so today, for your consideration and approval or consideration, is to move that display. We've had further discussion with officials from the Woodpeckers as well as city management. The display will remain intact, and we also are preparing a plaque that describes the donation from this board to the stadium. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
All right. I see one light, Mr. Booth.
Yeah, I'm not in opposition to transferring it over there for display if more people see it, but I don't understand why every time the city identifies something of the counties that they like, we give it to them. It's from property to money to, so if this is, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't say in this, it's kind of misleading. Consideration and approval of resolution to authorize the transfer of the exhibit to the Seagrass Stadium. Doesn't say transfer ownership, and that's what I'm very opposed to. It's ours. We've had it. We've just now gotten our own little display case downstairs. Who knows what we may build in the future, or we have a Cumberland County Hall of Fame. If they just go through there and start picking out stuff they'd like to have because they have a newer stadium, this is just the first step of wiping out our Cumberland County Hall of Fame. So I have no problem with approving and transferring the exhibit that the county maintains ownership, that it be displayed at the Seagrass Stadium, home of the Fayetteville Woodpeckers, as part of a goodwill gesture. Let them house something that we own that kind of is a nice little touch to baseball. But I'm opposed to giving it to them.
If Mr. Fairclough?
I agree with Commissioner Booth.
All right. The intent of this item is that we lend it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Mine is just to display it. We own it, display it. They can polish it, clean it up, put a ribbon on it, whatever they want to do. But and whether it's year to year or indefinite or until the stadium's demolished, I have no problem with that. But at some point, we might have something. We might. The Ruth family may come down here and give us a stadium, and then they'll go, where's that thing that George hit? They'll go, we gave that away decades ago.
You got a motion on that, Commissioner?
Yeah, that's my motion, is to maintain ownership and transfer for display at Seagrass Stadium for the Fayetteville Woodpeckers.
Second.
I'll second that, but I would ask, in terms of the motion, because I talked about it at the meeting, that it includes all of our stuff about the commemorative part about, because I think that's why we did it. So the whole display needs to go.
Yes, sir. In our conversations, we asked that it remains completely intact as it is.
All right. I second that motion by Mr. Booth.
All right. Mr. Fairclough, there's a question.
Thank you. By way of discussion on the motion, I think we probably ought to go ahead and get the resolution to clarify if, you know, I don't know, do we want to pass the motion and then change the wording, or do we want to go ahead and vote on the wording? How do y'all want to handle that? Because transfer in most government settings is a permanent thing.
Right. That's why I wanted to get a lot of.
You can put at loan, just like museums loan to
That's
other.
what I'm thinking.
It would be on loan until.
Yeah, transfer has a meaning in government, to me. And
Do we just need to change the word?
On loan or on
to
display,
lend or
term.
to own, whatever.
Just like that.
Can you can
Yes, sir, we'll take care of that.
Okay.
We understand the intent.
okay.
All right. Are we together on that now?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a time limit for them to have it?
Oh.
Keep it
Forever?
All right. We've got the intent intact, and since this is something that has to be done before the next meeting, do I see question marks anywhere?
Are they trying to do it before opening day?
Probably.
Yeah. All right,
That's coming up.
Yeah, they need to do it right away.
I'm ready to vote now.
Mrs. Fairclough?
We're ready to vote.
Can I offer a friendly amendment to the motion, which would be to change the word transfer to loan?
Yeah, I think he said that. Yeah.
All right. That
Sure. Is there a second?
Yeah, second that.
Michael
Second
seconds that.
accept, yeah.
Mr. Booth seconds that. And so the motion is that this is a loan.
Change the word transfer to loan.
Is not a transfer. Okay, thank you. Those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you. Item B,
Yes, ma'am. Item B is consideration of conveying lots 37 and 43 in the Cumberland Industrial Center to Fayetteville Technical Community College for a fire training and rescue facility. As you know, the county is partnering with the community college to construct a regional fire and training facility. The community college will be using a significant portion of their state bonds. In order to do that and utilize those bonds, the property needs to be in the name of the community college. And so today we're asking for your consideration of conveying this property. And I believe the deed has been prepared so that if the property is not used for that specific purpose, there is a reversion clause back to the county.
Oh, you can make it.
all right. I need a
think
motion, please.
Mr. Keefe
Oh,
was before
Mr.
me.
Adams?
No, well, Mr. Keefe was before
Or
me.
Mr. Keefe, I don't know which was first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move to approve.
Second.
We heard the motion. Those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank
Item
you.
5 are the nominations.
Do we have someone who's ready? Mr. Keefe?
That's to the seniors,
Oh, sorry, ma'am.
to the Senior Citizen Advisory Board, I would recommend Don Bennett, Senior.
Okay. Bennett, let's go on to the next one, please.
As to the Cumberland County Workforce Development, they are eligible for reappointment, 3 of them. Joy Miller, Jesse Brayboy Jr., Dina Simcock, Sherry Turner, and as we had the resignation, Chad Sampson to fill the unexpired term of Marty Caton.
Okay, thank you. I'll call on Vice Chair, Mr. Fairclough.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 6 is the appointments. For 2 of the positions, we have the same number of nominees as we have positions. So at this time, for the Animal Control Board, 1 vacancy, I would move that we appoint Charlotte Davis.
Okay.
Second.
Those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, and for the Cape Fear Valley Board of Trustees, for the RN position, we have one vacancy, we have one nominee. I move that we appoint Murtis Worth for second term.
Second.
All right, those in favor?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Keefe, Lancaster, Faircloth, Chair Council, Commissioners Booth and Adams. Voting in opposition, Commissioner Evans.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. The reason I'm pulling Daniel Uber's nomination for Cape Fear Valley
General
Board.
Public.
Okay, thank you. Since you nominated him, you may pull him.
Okay, for the remaining Cape Fear Valley positions, the general public position, there are 2 vacancies and there are 3 remaining nominees. At this time, we'll conduct an election for that position. For those positions, you may vote for 2. So we'll just take them in the order that it said. All in favor of Billy R. King reappointment?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Faircloth, Council, Adams, and Evans.
Okay, all in favor of the reappointment of Dr. Warren McDonald?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Keefe, Lancaster, Faircloth, and Adams.
Okay, all in favor of the nomination, or, excuse me, the appointment of Pamela Suggs Story?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Keefe, Lancaster, Council, Booth, and Evans. So we have a total of 5 for Pamela Story, and Billy R. King and Dr. Warren McDonald are tied with 4 each.
Dr. Who?
Interesting, okay.
Dr. Warren McDonald.
And who?
Okay, we have,
Billy King.
okay, then we have a runoff between Billy R. King and Dr. Warren McDonald. All of those in favor of Billy R. King?
Voting in favor of Billy King are Chair Council, Commissioner Adams, and Evans for a total of 3.
Okay, all of those in favor of Dr. Warren McDonald?
Voting in favor of Dr. Warren McDonald, Commissioner Keefe, Lancaster, Faircloth.
You're not voting either one?
That's a total of 3. It's still tied between the 2.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, who wants
Yes,
to break?
yeah, he didn't have to, I mean, he didn't vote.
Yeah,
But that's,
I think we can do that. I don't,
no, you gotta have another vote.
Commissioner Booth, did
He
you
has
vote
to-
neither of those?
Either.
so, and that is
Rules of
his
procedure if you don't
choice,
vote,
his
vote.
legal, right?
He doesn't have to vote.
Under our rules of procedure, since that's the only motion on the floor for those 2, I think it would require a vote. I mean,
Okay.
Okay, so
let
what's
me
the,
make sure that there are no other nominees to be put today. Is that correct?
Do you want
Not nominees,
to,
but
is it
appointments.
the pleasure of the board to go ahead and break this tie or to bring it back in 2 weeks? We have tied twice.
I didn't-
Commissioner Evans?
Madam Chair, I would like to suggest or make a motion that we bring it back in a couple of weeks at our next meeting.
At our next
I'll
meeting.
second it just to have a vote on it. I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we bring this back to our next meeting. Mr. Fairclough?
what's going to be accomplished in the next 2 weeks?
I didn't know.
It depends on what Mr.
That's
Booth
right. I didn't
does.
know. I didn't know that me not voting was going to make a difference. I'll go ahead and vote. I was the proponent for Miss Story, and so I was committed to voting for her. I thought everybody else had. I hadn't. You know, so I didn't. Yeah, I thought everybody else had already made all their contacts. So I mean, I'll be glad to vote if we want to do it again.
Well, there's a motion on the floor. I mean, you want to vote, to bring it back in 2 weeks? You want to vote it, I mean, that's.
I'm ready to vote.
The motion is to bring it back in 2 weeks. That's the motion on the floor. All right, those in favor of bringing it back in 2 weeks, raise your hands.
Voting in favor, Commissioner Evans and Commissioner Council.
And me. Those opposed to that, raise your hands.
Voting in opposition, Commissioners Keefe, Lancaster, Faircloth, Booth, and Adams.
All right. Then we are going to, let me ask you to do that again, Mr. Faircloth, on the tied
Okay, once again,
position.
we have a tie for second place. It's either 4-4 or 3-3, depending on how we look at it, but the last one was 3-3. So, once again, all in favor of the reappointment of Billy R. King?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Council, Adams, and Evans. That's 3.
All in favor of Dr. Warren McDonald?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Keefe, Lancaster, Faircloth, and Booth. That is 4.
Thank you, Commissioners. So we have our trustees for the hospital. Thank you. All right, I need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to
Move we go into 143-318, 11A3.
and
economic development.
And economic development,
11A4.
4.
All right, thank you. I'll second that motion. Those in favor?
Unanimous.
We're in closed session.